Hi folks, welcome back. Or, if this is your first time here, it's a pleasure to have you. Go ahead, find a comfortable spot, maybe with a warm drink or a cozy blanket. Because tonight, we're taking a gentle step back into the soft sands of time. Another story time. One filled with wonder, quiet contemplation, and ancient echoes. Before we begin, I'd just like to ask, if you enjoy these slower, thoughtful dives into the mythologies and mysteries of our world, consider tapping the like button and subscribing to the channel. It helps this little corner of the internet keep going. And if you find yourself loving this video, perhaps share it with a friend or a family member. Stories, after all, are meant to be passed on. Tonight's story is both simple and profoundly strange. We're going to explore a question that's been quietly sitting in the background of human thought for thousands of years. Why do we speak so many languages? Why is knowledge, the ability to name, to understand, to create, something that seems so deeply human, and yet so fragmented? To answer that, we turn to an old story, one tucked inside the early chapters of Genesis, a tale shared across the Abrahamic faiths, known as the Tower of Babel. In this story, we meet a world not yet divided by language, a people unified, speaking one tongue, building one dream. But somewhere along the way, something changes. Their unity unravels, words scatter, minds splinter, and from the rubble of a halted tower, the seeds of language and knowledge spread across the earth. But what does it all mean? Was this a punishment, a protection, or something deeper about the nature of human ambition and the limits of understanding? Over the next few minutes, we'll walk slowly through this tale, its verses, its symbols, and its quiet implications. No rush, no noise, just the old story told with care. So, settle in. We're about to begin. Close your eyes for just a moment if you like. Try to imagine what it means for there to be nothing. Not emptiness like a quiet room, not darkness like nightfall, but truly nothing. No stars, no time, no sound, no place. A formless void, a silence so deep, it isn't even silence yet, because silence is something. And this is before even that. And then, softly, but surely, a voice. Not a shout, not a roar, just a voice. In the beginning, God spoke. Let there be light. That's how the story begins in the book of Genesis. Not with a sword, not with a storm, but with words. And God said. That phrase returns again and again in the first lines of Genesis, a rhythm, like a heartbeat. And God said, let there be, and it was so. The light, the sky, the land and sea, each part of the world, called into being through speech. It's not the hand of God that builds first, not fire or force, but breath and language. In Hebrew, the sacred language of the text, this pattern is even more musical. Vayomer Elohim, and God said. It's almost like a song, sung into the void. You see, in this story, language is not just a tool. It's the very beginning of everything. Before light, there is speech. Before form, there is sound. Before the world begins to take shape, there is a voice. That's something beautiful to pause and think about. The universe didn't start with chaos. It started with clarity, with intention, with meaning, wrapped inside words. And that is the first whisper of knowledge. Because to speak something is to know it. To name something is to begin to understand it. So in this quiet beginning, we find something deep. Language is not just how humans talk. It is, in this story, how reality itself is shaped. God didn't make light with hands. He set it into being. His voice made the light real. And so, Language, in this view, is divine. It's sacred. It's the breath that brings forth everything. And that is the first glimpse we get of where knowledge and language come from. Not from people, but from the voice that called the world into light. So now, the light has been spoken into being. The waters have been separated. The land, the sky, the stars, each given a name, each called into place with quiet command. And then, we come to something very special. Not a mountain, not a river or a beast, but a person, a human. And once again, the story slows down. It becomes careful, almost tender. God bends low to the ground, to the dust. Not gold, not stone, but dust. From this soft earth, this simple soil, God begins to shape something. A form, a body. And so Adam is made. His name in Hebrew, Adam, comes from Adamah, the word for earth or ground. He is, quite literally, the earth made into a man. But this figure lying still in the dust is not yet alive, not yet aware, not yet fully human. So, God does something quiet, something deeply personal. He leans in and breathes. He breathes into Adam's nostrils. And that breath, called ruach in Hebrew, is not just air. It is the breath of life. But also something more. You see, ruach can also mean spirit. It can mean wind. It can mean voice. This breath doesn't only wake Adam's body. It opens his mind. It gives him awareness. It gives him a sense of self. He now knows that he is alive, and he knows it. This breath is where the divine and the human meet. Not just life, but understanding. Not just movement, but meaning. It's as if a piece of God's own voice now lives in Adam. A gentle theological idea begins to form here, that maybe, just maybe, humans don't only have breath. We carry something of God's voice within us. A whisper of the Creator, placed gently inside the created. And perhaps that is why we speak, why we name, why we wonder, why we reach for knowledge. Because we were made not only by words, but with them. Formed by the dust, awakened by the breath. We are, in this story, language made flesh. And in that still moment, when Adam opens his eyes for the very first time, what does he see? The world, yes, the garden, the sky, but also the one who gave him breath. And maybe, just maybe, he also hears that voice, still echoing somewhere inside him. Now, Adam walks in the garden. The trees sway gently in the breeze. The rivers flow quietly across the land. Birdsong fills the air. Sweet, unhurried, curious. It is not a loud place. It is not crowded. There is peace. There is stillness. And here, in this wide and living world, Adam is not given a weapon. He is not told to rule with strength or might. He is given a task, a quiet, sacred one. God brings the animals to him. Not all at once, but one by one. The birds, the beasts, the creeping things. And Adam names them. Lion, dove, deer, bee. Each name spoken softly. Not shouted, not forced. It's easy to think this scene is about control, that naming means power. But in Hebrew thought, to name something is not to dominate it. It is to know it. It is to look at a creature, see what makes it different from all the others, and draw that difference gently into words. It is not a scene of pride, but of understanding. A lion is not just big, it is brave. An owl is not just silent, it is wise. To name something is to see into it, to feel its presence, to notice its nature. And in that way, knowledge here is not cold. It is not stored away in books. It is living. It is relational. It is soft and intuitive. Adam learns not by studying, but by watching, by listening, by simply being present with each creature until the name comes. It is the first moment of human knowledge in the story, and it doesn't come with noise or struggle. It comes with stillness. This is what it means to be made in the image of the one who speaks, to understand, to name, to care, not to control the world, but to recognize it, to say with gentle breath, I see you, I know what you are, and now you have a name. And so we've seen how the world began not with war, but with words. How humanity began not with strength, but with spirit. And how knowledge began not with books or buildings, but with a single breath and the whisper of a name. But now, something changes. Because as peaceful as the beginning is, the next part of the story begins to turn. There will be a choice. There will be a question. And with it, a fracture. The knowledge that once felt like a gift will start to feel like something else. So buckle up as we gently step forward into the fracturing of understanding. So far, everything has been quiet, gentle, full of wonder. The garden is alive, the animals are named, the air is soft, and Adam walks with God, not in fear, but in peace. But in this garden, right in the middle, there are two trees, two very special trees. One is called the tree of life. It stands tall, its leaves are wide, and its fruit glows softly in the light. It is a symbol of life that never ends, of wholeness, of perfect health. Eating from this tree means staying close to the breath that made the world. It means walking in step with the one who spoke everything into being. It is a tree of deep, gentle yes. But beside it, there is another tree. This one feels different. It is called the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. It doesn't shout, it doesn't threaten, but it waits. It stands quietly, growing just like the tree of life, but something about it is heavier. It holds something hidden, something powerful, something not yet given. And God speaks again, not to create this time, but to warn. He says, "You may eat from every tree in the garden, but from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil you must not eat. For in the day you eat from it, you shall surely die." The words are simple, but they sit heavy in the air. God does not explain why. He does not list reasons. He simply says, no. It's important to understand, this is not about control. It's not about God being afraid of human knowledge. It's something softer than that, something deeper. This tree, unlike the others, carries a kind of knowing that is different. It is not the same as naming animals. It is not the same as walking with God in the cool of the day. This kind of knowledge is mixed. It's a knowing of both good and evil, right and wrong, clear and unclear. It is a knowing that can bless, but also break. And so, in the quiet of the garden, God offers freedom with a single limit. All else is yours, he says, but not this. This tree is not for now, not yet. And maybe you wonder, why even put the tree there? Why not keep it out of the garden altogether? But here's the quiet truth. Without a choice, love isn't love. Obedience isn't real. And trust can't be tested. So the tree stands, not as a trap, but as a question, not shouted, but whispered. Will you trust me, even when you don't understand? And so the garden holds its breath, not in fear, but in waiting. 2 trees, 2 paths. One leads to life forever, the other to something not yet named, but known only to God. Adam walks among the trees. He sees the one he can eat from. He sees the one he must not. And for a time, everything is still. No fruit is touched. No law is broken. The story rests, balanced between freedom and trust. But the peace of this moment will not last, because something is coming, something quiet and clever. A voice, not God's, but one that sounds just close enough to be confusing. And that is where we will go next. For now, we leave the 2 trees standing, one full of light, the other full of mystery, both rooted deep in the same soil, both watched over by the same God. But soon, the choice will come, and with it, the first crack in understanding. And so, the garden remains quiet, but not for long. Among the trees, beneath the shadows of the leaves, a new voice begins to stir. It does not thunder, it does not command, it whispers. A serpent appears, not in a flash of fire, not with claws or chaos, but simply a quiet presence. In the ancient telling, this serpent is more subtle than all the other creatures. He does not bring fear, he brings questions. He turns to the woman, Eve, the one formed from Adam's side, and he speaks. Not harshly, not angrily, but gently. Did God really say, "You must not eat from any tree in the garden"? It's not a lie, not yet. It's a small twist, a little curl around the truth. Eve answers, "We may eat the fruit of the trees in the garden, but of the fruit of the tree in the middle, God said, you must not eat it or touch it, or you will die." She remembers. She repeats the warning. But then the serpent moves closer, not in body, but in words. And now he says something else. "You will not surely die, for God knows that when you eat from it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil." It is a new idea, softly wrapped in promise. It doesn't sound like rebellion. It sounds like awakening. It sounds like becoming more. It's not shouted, it's offered, a seed, placed in thought. And Eve looks at the tree again. It hasn't changed, but now she sees it differently. The story says, when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, pleasing to the eye, and desirable to make one wise, she reached out, she took the fruit, and she ate. There is no thunder, no fire, no scream from the heavens. The garden does not collapse. Everything is still. And she gives the fruit to Adam, and he eats as well. 2 bites. No violence, no battle. But in those quiet bites, everything shifts. The first act of disobedience is also the first conscious pursuit of a deeper kind of knowledge. A knowledge they were told to wait for. A knowledge they reached for instead. It is not the act of fools. It is the act of humans. Curious, longing, wanting more. And suddenly, they know. Not just good, but also something else. They see. They notice. And in the space between good and evil, a new thing is born. Shame. Something changes, not outside, but within. Their eyes are opened, just as the serpent had said. But it is not the power they expected. What they see first is not wisdom or light or glory. What they see is themselves. And suddenly, it feels wrong. They are naked, not just without clothes, but without cover. Exposed, vulnerable, seen. They feel a new thing, something they did not have before. Shame. So they sew fig leaves together, not to decorate, but to hide. From what? From each other, from themselves, and soon, from God. The story slows here. It becomes quiet again. We are told that God comes walking in the garden in the cool of the day. It's a soft moment, gentle, peaceful. But this time, Adam and Eve do not come forward. They do not greet their maker. Instead, they hide among the trees. God calls out, "Where are you?" It's not an accusation, it's a question. Simple, soft, like a parent calling to a child who's gone silent in the next room. Adam answers, but the tone is different now. "I heard you in the garden, and I was afraid, because I was naked, so I hid." Fear. A word that had no place before. God asks gently, "Who told you that you were naked? Have you eaten from the tree I commanded you not to eat from?" Now the language shifts again. No longer the calm naming of animals, no longer the quiet rhythms of harmony. Now, excuses. "The woman you put here with me, she gave me the fruit, and I ate it." Adam passes the blame, and when God turns to Eve, "The serpent deceived me," she says, "and I ate." She too deflects. The innocence of knowing without judgment is gone now. Before, they named animals with a kind of wonder. Now, they name guilt with a kind of fear. Knowledge was not the end, but it came with cost. Not just the fruit, not just the shame, but the change in how they speak, how they see, how they relate. This is the first moment where language becomes divided, not in vocabulary, but in purpose. Words no longer only build, they now protect, deflect, and separate. The first crack in understanding is not in the mind, but in the heart. The unity once shared between human, creation, and creator begins to drift. And with it, the way humans speak, to themselves, to each other, to God, also begins to drift. A voice once used for harmony now carries the seeds of separation. This is where the fracture begins. Not with loud rebellion, but with quiet disconnection. A step away from the center of knowing, into the long, wandering path of learning and longing. And in our next chapter, we follow that path. Out of the garden, into open land, as the people begin to scatter, still speaking, but no longer in perfect harmony. The garden, once so gentle, so quiet, so safe, is now behind them. The moment is not loud, it is not harsh, it is sorrowful. God, still calm, still steady, gently clothes the man and the woman. Garments of skin, soft protection, for a world that will not be soft. Then, with quiet finality, he sends them out of Eden, out of the place where everything once began in ease. They walk now into dust, into wind, into a world that does not yield so freely. The soil is harder, the ground stubborn, it grows thorns, and sweat now becomes a part of survival. The tree of life remains behind, guarded. Flaming swords and a cherub now stand at the gate, a symbol not just of distance, but of separation from that divine simplicity. But not everything is taken away. They carry with them the breath, the voice, the memory of a world where words were once pure. And so they begin again, not in paradise, but in the open world, still speaking, still naming, still knowing. But now, with effort, with pain, with questions. Language doesn't vanish. It becomes something new, not just a mirror of God's voice, but a tool for survival, to call out across the fields, to teach a child, to pray, even in uncertainty. There are no more walking conversations with God in the cool of the day, but still, humans speak to the earth, to each other, to the silence, because the voice has not been taken, only the garden. This is the beginning of wandering, but not the end of wonder. And as they move farther from Eden, the question quietly begins to grow. What will we become, now that we must learn everything without walking beside the one who made it all? Time moves forward. The man and the woman have children, 2 sons, Cain and Abel. Abel tends sheep, Cain works the soil. 2 brothers, 2 offerings, 2 hearts. They each bring something to God. Abel offers with quiet gratitude. Cain, we do not know what stirs in his heart, but something, perhaps, is unsettled. God accepts Abel's offering, but not Cain's. The text does not say why, only that Cain's face falls. God speaks, gently. A father still trying to guide. If you do well, will you not be accepted? But he also warns, sin is crouching at the door. Its desire is for you, but you must master it. And then, Cain speaks to Abel, but we do not hear what he says. The scripture leaves a blank, a space, a silence. Perhaps the words are lost, or perhaps they were not words meant to remain. They go out to the field, just the 2 of them, and only one walks back. Cain rises against his brother and kills him. The first act of violence, between kin, between voices once born in the same home. When God calls out, his voice is not angry, it is familiar. It echoes the same question he asked before, in a different garden. Where is your brother? But this time, the answer is not honesty, not even sorrow. It is avoidance. Am I my brother's keeper? Cain's words now deflect. They do not seek truth. They escape it. Language, which once gave names to every living thing, now hides behind a question. And in this moment, something shifts. Human speech is no longer a mirror of God's clarity. It becomes layered, heavy, capable of hiding what lies beneath. Cain is marked, but not with punishment alone. He is marked with mercy. God protects him, even in exile. And so Cain wanders. He leaves the presence of the Lord. He builds a city. He names it after his son. And so language continues, but now it is shaped by longing, by separation, by memory. A brother lost, a home left behind, a people beginning to forget what it sounded like to speak face to face with God. Time continues its quiet rhythm, from Adam to Seth, to Enosh and beyond. The names are spoken, the names are remembered. Each name is a story, a life lived, a breath taken, and each name keeps the thread of humanity alive. The people begin to spread, eastward, outward, across valleys and hills, through rivers and deserts. They form families, then tribes, then cities. They begin to build, not just homes, but ways of life, tools, rituals, music, memory. And through it all, a single tongue. One language still shared among them. The world becomes wider, but language holds them close. A common sound, a shared voice. Names gain new meaning. Some are named for hope, some for sorrow, others for what is yet to come. And in this, there is a quiet yearning, not just to survive, but to make sense of the world, to speak and be understood, to build and be remembered, to gather meaning, stone by stone, word by word. Even in the noise of growing cities, there remains a quiet echo, the longing for something lost in Eden, the closeness, the clarity, the simple understanding. It is faint now, but not gone. And this yearning, this desire to come together, to hold again what was once whole, leads to a tower. There is a wide land, flat and open, a plain stretched across the earth, quiet, waiting. This place is called Shinar. There are no mountains here, no wild rivers, just space, enough for people to gather, enough for ideas to begin. And so they come. Not in haste, not in fear, but simply together. Families, clans, carrying stories, tools, hope. They settle here, not by command, but by agreement. Text does not speak of a ruler. There is no king, no prophet, only people, speaking one language, sharing one thought. And then, a quiet voice among them says, "Come, let us make bricks." And the others, they nod. No shouting, no orders, just a simple sentence, an invitation, and a beginning. They gather clay, they bake the bricks. They work side by side under the wide sky of Shinar. It is not just about bricks. It is about doing something together. A rhythm forms. Dig, mold, fire, stack. Hands move in harmony. Words pass easily between them. There is no confusion here. Only shared effort, shared breath. The plain becomes a place of possibility, a stage for something greater. And though no leader is named, a vision begins to grow among them. Quietly, slowly, like a seed pressing upward from the soil. What if we could reach the heavens? The bricks have been made. The ground is firm beneath their feet. The sky above remains open, wide, endless. And then another voice, not loud, but steady. A suggestion that carries across the camp. Let us build a city and a tower that reaches the heavens. No one argues, no one laughs, because something in the idea feels true, like the next step, like purpose, spoken aloud. They begin, stacking brick on brick, not hurried but with care. And as the base rises, so does their hope. This is not just a tower. This is language, made visible. Each stone is a sentence, each level a paragraph. Their shared speech has become shared structure. They are building something that has never been seen before, not for shelter, not for war, but for meaning, to reach the heavens, whatever that may mean, upwards, together. And as the tower grows, so does their unity. They speak with one tongue. They understand without struggle. They work in peace. There is a strange and gentle irony here. They do not wish to be scattered. They fear being forgotten, lost like dust blown by the wind. So they build up, higher and higher, hoping that their words might stretch all the way to the sky and stay. This tower is not pride alone. It is longing. Longing to stay near, to not be lost, to leave something behind that stands, even when voices grow silent. But the sky listens, and soon it will answer. The tower rises, slowly, carefully, brick upon brick, word upon word. From below it touches the sky. From above, it barely scratches the clouds. But something shifts, quietly. The story says, "And the Lord came down to see the city and the tower." It's a calm irony, a soft smile within the words. For though the people built upward, God still must come downward to see what they have made, not in anger, not in noise. He comes to observe, to watch their hands, to listen to their words. And God sees something not just in the bricks, but in the hearts behind them. Not just a tower, but an idea, a dream of being one, of staying close, of reaching beyond what is known. And so God says, as if thinking aloud, if as one people, with one language, they have begun to do this, then nothing they plan will be impossible for them. He doesn't shout, he doesn't strike, he reflects. He sees the power of shared language, of united speech, of words used to build. The tower stands below, half finished. The people, still climbing, still dreaming. But the moment is changing. For the same gift that brought them together will now take them apart. The tower would not fall by force, but something gentler, more lasting, was about to begin. A scattering, not of punishment, but of possibility. Now begins a new chapter, where words multiply, where voices change, and where humanity learns to speak again, but differently. There is no thunder, no storm, no fire from the heavens. No divine hand topples the tower. It remains, unfinished, silent, still. But something invisible moves among the people. It happens quietly, softly, like a breeze slipping between bricks, like a pause in the middle of a sentence. A word is spoken, but no one responds. Another tries to answer, but it makes no sense. Someone laughs nervously. Another frowns. A third tilts their head confused. They try again, more slowly, more loudly, more desperately. But it's gone. Understanding. The single thread that bound them, their shared tongue, their common rhythm, has been gently, quietly unwoven. There is no scream, just silence, then noise, then chaos. Voices rise, but not together. Each speaks, but none understand. One gestures wildly, another backs away. Some cry, some laugh, uncertain. The mortar dries on bricks left hanging. Hammers fall from hands. Plans are abandoned mid-thought. Dreams dissolve mid-sentence. The unity that had driven them, that strange and beautiful harmony, now dissolves into dissonance. And still, the tower stands. Not destroyed, but paused, frozen in time. A monument not of pride, but of potential interrupted. And God, he does not shout, he does not scold. He simply steps back and lets the voices scatter. Not a punishment, but a pivot. Not destruction, but redirection. They will not speak as one again, but they will still speak. Differently, distantly, yet onward. They walk away from Shinar in groups, in tribes, in pairs. Some head west, some east, some stay, each with their own voice, their own sound, their own way of naming the world. The scattering is complete, but the speaking has only just begun. Once, There had been one voice, one rhythm, one breath passing through many mouths, shaping a shared world. But now, the voices splintered, not in anger, not in violence, just softly, quietly, unfolding in different directions. Words break apart like clay dropped from gentle hands. Syllables shift, sounds stretch. Simple phrases begin to twist into dialects, then accents, then songs no longer understood. One man speaks, another hears, but not quite. He nods, unsure, then responds, with different words, different tones, a different shape of meaning. They both smile, trying to hold on to the connection, but it slips. The mortar dries. The bricks lie stacked, untouched. The scaffolding creaks, waiting for hands that do not return. The project does not collapse in flame. It does not end in battle. It simply stops. Not because they were weak, not because they lacked tools or vision or will, but because something more delicate had broken. Understanding. When we cannot name the same thing, we cannot build the same dream. They look around, then at each other, then at the sky. The tower, once a ladder of unity, now seems strange, empty, silent. And slowly they walk away. Some take their bricks, others take only their stories. Some take their tools, and some take silence. A man sings as he walks, but the tune is his own now. A woman hums to her child, a new melody born of her tongue. Two brothers speak no longer as one, but they still speak. From one voice to many. From one path to a scattering of journeys. Language, once the thread of union, now becomes the seed of cultures. And though the tower lies behind them, unfinished and unspoken, they carry something forward. Not the structure, but the spark. They will build again. They will speak again. They will misunderstand. And they will try once more. And from the fragments, new worlds will rise. When the dust settled and the tower no longer climbed, they gave the place a name. Babel. A word that in Hebrew meant something simple. Confusion. Because there, speech was scattered, and understanding lost. But in another tongue, an older one, Akkadian, the name held a different meaning. Babel, the gate of God. One place, one name, two meanings. One speaks of chaos, the other of something sacred. And strangely, both are true. Because in that place, human pride reached upward, so did human unity, so did human hope. It was there that people stretched their hands toward heaven, but found themselves touching the limits of language instead. They had come together in one voice, and left with many. But that scattering, that confusion, it was not just punishment, it was permission. To grow in ways they hadn't imagined, to discover new ways of naming the world. Because even in confusion there is creation, even in the scattering there is spreading, and in the dividing of tongues, knowledge begins to multiply. Some would call the place cursed, others would see it as sacred. Perhaps it was both. The gate of God and the tower of confusion. The place where language was broken, so that it could become many languages. The place where unity was lost, so that many truths could begin. The people moved on, not as one, but not as enemies, just different, walking different paths, carrying different words, learning to name the world in many ways. And from Babel, history would ripple outward, not just with speech, but with stories, with cultures, with dreams spoken in thousands of tongues, all from one place, where God came down and scattered the voice, not to destroy, but to expand. And so, as the dust of Babel settles in our minds, we look ahead to the next part of the story. Babel still echoes, not just in history, but in how we interpret what happened. Was it wrath, or was it wisdom? Some say punishment, a divine act of halting pride, of scattering people who climbed too high, too fast, together. And yes, there was ambition. There was fear of being scattered. There was the attempt to build something human that touched the divine, to unify around a tower rather than truth. But others see something else, a gentler view, that Babel was not the end of a dream, but the protection of one, that by dividing language, God preserved something fragile. Freedom. The freedom to think differently, to dream differently, to build differently. Because one voice can build unity, but it can also become tyranny. One language can create strength, but also silence. And so the scattering, it wasn't just a fracture, it was a seed. A moment when the singular broke apart so that the plural could bloom. Not all in agreement, but not all lost. God did not destroy the people. He preserved them by giving them difference, by gifting them with the burden of understanding and the beauty of misunderstanding. So was Babel a fall or a mercy? Maybe it was both. A painful gift, a divine redirection, a doorway to cultures, stories, meanings, and the countless languages that now fill the earth. Because in the scattering we did not lose our voice. We gained voices, and with them new ways of knowing, of naming, of seeing. We continue now, deeper into this reflection. Language had broken, but meaning was just beginning to unfold. After Babel, the world did not fall silent. It burst into color. Language became a mosaic, a chorus of accents, a web of metaphors, 1,000 names for wind, for sky, for love, for grief. No longer one voice, but many, each incomplete, each essential. Humanity no longer walked in unison, but it still walked, still spoke, still searched. And in this scattering, something strange and sacred began. Not the loss of knowledge, but the multiplication of it. Ideas branched like rivers. Cultures sprouted from soil never touched by Eden. Wisdom arose in fragments, in stories, in rituals, in songs sung to different skies. No one people held all the truth. No single language could name all things. And maybe that was the point. Because centralized knowledge becomes brittle, but scattered knowledge can grow like seeds in the wind. Each language became a lens, shaping how its speakers saw the world, shaping how they listened, how they imagined. Plurality wasn't a curse. It was the beginning of something larger, a truth too big for one word, too wild for one tower. We do not all speak the same, but we all speak. And somehow, across gulfs of meaning and difference, we still find ways to understand. Still find echoes of Eden in every conversation. Still find glimpses of the divine in every dialect. Plurality is not just what scattered us. It's what keeps us searching, reaching, translating. Because deep beneath every word, in every language, is the same ancient hunger. To know, to be known. Language is a thread. It ties soul to soul, but it can also unravel. We speak to connect, to be understood, to name our wounds, to say, I see you, I know you. But that same tongue can twist, can confuse, can deceive. From the garden to the tower, from Eden's hush to Babel's clamor, the story tells us words are never neutral. They can build cities or walls, heal or sever, unite or isolate. Cain spoke to Abel and then struck him. The builders in Shinar spoke as one, but their words climbed too high. Language is a gift, but not a safe one. It is power, and power always cuts both ways. Even now, we choose daily to use speech as a bridge or a barrier, to listen for truth or to sharpen our tongues. In every conversation, the echo of Babel still lingers, and yet, so does the memory of Eden, the hope that language might still lead us back to something whole.
This is where we begin to trace that hope, to follow the echoes of Babel into later stories, later tongues. The story continues, not just in myth, but in poetry, scripture, and song. How later voices remembered Babel and reimagined what language could be. Long after the dust of Babel had settled, a whisper returned, not in bricks nor in towers, but in wind. Jerusalem. A room filled with waiting, hearts uncertain, tongues still divided. Then, a sound, like rushing wind, fire resting on each of them, and suddenly, speech. But not just one tongue, many. The disciples speak, and every listener, Parthian, Mede, Egyptian, Roman, hears in their own language. Not translation, recognition. Where Babel's scattered, Pentecost gathers. Where confusion's silenced, Pentecost opens. But not by flattening difference, not by returning to one language. No. It is mutual comprehension across diversity, a unity born not from sameness, but understanding. It is a glimpse, just a moment, of what could be when words bridge instead of break. For a breath of time, language does not divide. It sings. The echoes continue. Across generations, cultures, and covenants, each retelling the story, each adding a voice. Next, we trace how those voices evolved, how later thinkers, poets, and prophets wrestled with the same questions. Is language a curse or a calling? The ancient myth refused to stay ancient. It demanded response, and history answered, word by word. Before there was confusion, before towers or scattering, there was a garden, and in it, Adam. In Islamic tradition, God does not wait for Adam to name the world. He teaches him the names of all things, every creature, every element, every essence. And he taught Adam the names, all of them. Surah Al-Baqarah 2:31. This is not just vocabulary, it is vision, a divine trust. Language in this telling is not a human invention, but a sacred inheritance. Unlike Babel, the focus is not on ambition or punishment. There is no scattering, no tower, but the same reverence for speech, as a bridge between heaven and earth. In this view, understanding is a gift, and misunderstanding, a loss of the sacred connection. Where the biblical tradition speaks of reversal and redemption, the Islamic tradition roots speech in origin, a divine beginning, where knowing the name of a thing was to know its truth. It is a quieter echo, but a powerful one, reminding us that words, at their best, are meant to reveal, not conceal. And so, we arrive at the edge of the story. From Eden to Babel, from Pentecost to prophecy, language shaped us. But now comes the deeper question. Beneath all the myth, the faith, the memory, why do we know it all? Why do we seek names? Why do we speak into silence? We've seen the stories. Now we search for meaning in the silence between them. Why do humans have language? Because we are made to listen, to name, to build, to scatter. Each chapter of our story, from Eden's stillness, to Babel's bricks, to Pentecost's wind, has been marked by a question we carry deep in our bones. What does it mean to know? We reach, we always have, for fruit that promises wisdom, for towers that scrape the sky, for meaning in the echo of another's voice. We don't just want to speak,
We want to understand. We don't just want to build. We want what we build to mean something. And so we are scattered, not just across land, but across ideas. Each language a window, each dialect a doorway to a different way of seeing. And yet, we remain, curiously, stubbornly, united by this one strange power: to speak, to question, to name the world, and to wonder what lies just beyond the edge of the word. Today, the world hums with thousands of languages, each one a thread in a vast, tangled tapestry, each tongue a map of memory, a vessel for culture, a rhythm of thought. From the whispers of endangered dialects to the thunder of global trade languages, we live in a world of difference. And yet, beneath the surface, something shared pulses quietly. The desire to know, to be known, to bridge the silence between us. We may not all understand one another. Our words may miss, twist, or fall short. But still, we speak. We try. A child naming the moon in Quechua. A scientist explaining time in Mandarin. A lover saying stay in broken Swahili. Each voice, no matter how faint, adds to the chorus. This is not a failure of unity. It is a celebration of seeking. We do not need one language to find truth. Only the shared yearning to reach it. Across tongues, across space, across time. The tower was never finished, but perhaps that was never the point. Today we build different towers, not from brick and tar, but from ideas, equations, syllables, satellites, symphonies. We reach toward the heavens still, not to conquer, but to understand. Each language a scaffold, each story a brick, each question a stair upward. And in every culture, every discipline, every whispered prayer or coded algorithm, we hear echoes of that ancient yearning. Let us reach the sky. But this time, not as one people trying to be the same, not fearing being scattered, but as many, each voice distinct, reaching together through difference. The scattering was not the end, it was the invitation to begin a longer journey, not upward but outward, across the world, across minds, across meaning itself. We still build, not to finish the tower, but to continue the story. And so the Tower of Babel still echoes, not as ruins in the dust, but as a question whispered in every language. Why do we know? Why do we reach? Maybe because we were never meant to stop. Maybe because every tongue, every idea, is one more thread in something bigger than ourselves. From a garden to a flood to a tower, we've walked through ancient memory, through myth and meaning, through the quiet mystery of being human. I hope this story stayed with you, not just as a tale from long ago, but as something living, woven into the world you wake up to tomorrow. Now, as you rest, may your dreams carry you across great plains, up towers of thought, and into worlds built from words. Good night. I truly hope you enjoyed this journey. And if you did, don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who would love a good story before bed, and most importantly, subscribe to the channel. Because with your support, we can help more people slow down, drift off, and fall asleep to something that stirs the soul. Until next time, sleep well.